Hi, this is Charles Oliver. Welcome to the Executive Retirement Protection Plan webinar. This is an educational, insight-based experience, and I'm excited to share with those of you attending, executives as well as business owners, maybe both like myself, the opportunity to really learn the power of safe, positive leverage. And to really get off on the right foot from a good housekeeping perspective, here are the things that I have found that myself and others really have proven to be good housekeeping kind of rules of thumb to make the most of your experience. Please be in the moment. If you can, just shut down the cell phones and the emails that you may have open in the corner of this. And really just, if you can, the attention span goes about 45 minutes maximum, especially for us busy entrepreneurs and executives. And so we're going to keep it right there. But if you would, also write down your insights and then be sure to also write down your questions. I've given certain opportunities to some people attending to forward in their questions, and this helps us learn right along with you. So questions, answers will be coming, so please be patient. A way of using OPM, okay, and what does this system provide? Now, I have shared with those of you that this we have found to be the most patented, protected, arguably the most safe, proven savings solution of our time, and we'll get into those main benefits. But a way of using OPM, other people's money, to augment our ability to obtain supplemental tax-free retirement income. And that's going to be vital, especially knowing that those of you attending, being a six-figure income and higher, it would almost be impossible, in many cases it is impossible, to possibly save enough money in traditional tax-deferred programs that we're not saying aren't good, but in many cases, creating more supplemental tax advantage income is going to be needed or necessary in order to be able to retire and have the same lifestyle earning capability with inflation-adjusted income in the future as the income we were able to derive while we were working. Now, this is a use of permanent life insurance. Now, this is not your grandma's life insurance policy, and please just suspend your disbelief, even if it's only for about the next 45 minutes. But understand the biggest banks and corporations in this country and some of the wealthiest individuals in existence, be it current and former U.S. presidents and names like Rockefellers and Kennedys, have all successfully used this, and it's a different form that many people have never heard of, which is why we teach this as an approved educational CPA course, and you can learn the same. This is key. Cash in the event of a chronic illness. Cash in the event of critical illnesses or now even critical injuries. Cash if, gosh forbid, there ever be a terminal illness. But overall, making sure that there's complete financial peace of mind, especially for those of you listening that may have another owner or other key principals in your business, or you're looking to bring on some of those key teammates or talent. This is a great recruiting and retaining tool. So here are our business concerns, right? And be it an employee or a partner, what concerns you the most, or what concerns us the most? Really our own benefits. We do a great job of putting away, cash flow and running the business, but many of us don't have a foolproof exit strategy, and we don't really have a uniquely positioned attracting tool for retaining and attracting key employees. Now, how will the government affect income and benefits in the future? Well, we obviously live in some pretty unique times right now, and I'll just summarize to say that our federal deficit is growing at this point now $1 million per minute. So it's very clear, and I talk about this in my books and on my national radio program, that the number of people 65 and older in this country will more than double in the next roughly 15 to 18 years, which means when you have fewer people pulling the wagon from collecting tax receipts, that's only going to mean more tax to you and I in our businesses, as well as more tax to you and I on our traditional retirement savings like IRAs and 401ks. But let's not stop there, because we have some amazing social programs, especially with some of the recent demands that we're seeing some of these college students demanding across campuses in this country, where full restitution of forgiveness of student loan debt, $15 an hour first minimum wage paying jobs, and the ability to get free college. Well, somebody's going to have to pay for those things depending on who our elected officials are and our next president. And the reality is we business owners and executives will pay dearly And I've always said, don't tax me on how hard I choose to work. I'm more open to you taxing me on how hard I choose to spend. Unfortunately, when you're taxed on your income, we are left no choice other than to be very tax advantageous with the way we derive our income, especially for retirement. What does this mean for owners and executives working in the private sector? Well, income taxes will likely be going in one direction, and that's up. Even if tax rates don't go up, the cost of living will go up, especially with needing to have at least a 15-year or longer time horizon before you want to start drawing supplemental retirement income. But unlike traditional retirement income vehicles, IRAs, 401ks, maybe capital gains rates on CDs or money markets, which are paying nothing, security brokerage accounts, or even traditional annuities, these accounts also, asterisk, will also incur a death tax. We want to show how to avoid taxes on our growth, taxes on our distribution, as well as taxes on our transfer, especially if there was a premature death to one of the principals or partners or key executives to protect ourselves and their families. Most advisors focus on growth, not net, right? You've heard the saying, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. Well, this will be a very important lesson, so be sure to lean in and pay attention. Supplemental income will not only be critical at retirement, but not having protection against unforeseen accidents and illnesses have and could wipe out our entire nest egg. Let's take a look. I use John, the executive here, and he's got a pretty serious challenge. He's 50 years old. He has a $250,000 income or salary. Net after tax, which means the government's getting about 85 grand off the top. You've heard of Tax Freedom Day, which for most of us is about the middle of April before we start making any money. And here's his challenge. We know health insurance with Obamacare has got one direction to go up, similar to taxes, which is really nothing more than a means test for people that make too much, right? Many of you listening are in that infamous shunned 1% that we should just be taxed up to 100%. But he's also trying to put away as much as he can in his 401k that also has limits on how much he can save. Now, if you're max funding your 401k and relying on Social Security, you may see from our projections a 70% reduction in your current lifestyle at retirement, which without supplemental retirement income planning is going to mean either forcing you to work longer, forcing you to work harder, or maybe disabling you from being able to retire whatsoever. Now, for many of you listening, I don't choose to retire, but I want to stop trading time for money under my terms, do what I want, when I want, how I want, with what I want, as opposed to being dictated by the federal government as a result of not being in a position of choice nor control. So here's the serious issue. If there's about a 70% lifestyle income gap, and right now Social Security is under fire. I talk about that in a book I published a couple years ago called What to Do at 62. And right now, several key filing strategies are being eliminated within the next so many months. And that's costing the average couple on average a reduction of about $200,000 plus of Social Security benefits that it's not an entitlement, they're entitled to those benefits because we all paid in. Unfortunately, the government's finding a way to take them away. But this gap is a big deal. Now, as a result of going back and looking at other costs that John has, disability insurance, right? We're the Martha Stewarts of our businesses, and if we go down, typically the ship goes down, especially for our key executives that we want to protect right along with us. Long-term care, which tends to be something that many people don't have, life insurance, as well as additional retirement income. So you can see there's a big cost to start having the financing of all these different protections that we as executive and business owners need in order to sustain our viability and our lifestyle in running our businesses and running our professions that we work in. Now, John's total here is about 71 grand, 72 grand, we'll call it, 6 grand a month, which means he's going to need to gross about 10,000 a month to net 6. That's a big deal because he also needs to have some take-home pay. So, most people contribute only enough to get the minimum benefits as it relates to term insurance, minimum disability, not having long-term care, self-insuring, and that's the opposite of what we're teaching. How do you get maximum benefits for minimum cost, but also with safe, positive leverage? Now, executive retirement protection planning is a key answer to this, and it's revolutionized with this patented protected program It's been back tested all the way back to 1929 at the end of the Great Depression. And here's how this transition in this learning opportunity has a huge impact on all of us learning as I speak. Let's start with supplemental income. What benefits would make up the ideal vehicle to provide supplemental income? Now, obviously we want to not pay tax as we're putting money away. Obviously we'd love to have our income tax free. We would like to avoid the 2000s, 2001s, 2s, 8s, and 9s. And obviously we want to have liquidity, access when we need it. We don't want locked out of our money till we're 59 and a half. We don't want forced out of our money by our government at 70 and a half. We want to be able to leave this money to the charities, our children, and churches, and the things that we support, not what the federal government decides. And this product is using what's called index life. Now, this is using life insurance as a source of supplemental retirement income, and it's not to replace, it's to enhance and complement to what many of you are already doing. And the good news is the idea of this is to see where we can cut costs for key executives and employers / business owners and principals, not a way to force you to work harder or save more, but to be strategic in the order of what you're putting away, where it's going, and how you can consolidate those things for savings in the process. So let's take a look. Why index life? Well, the account grows tax deferred under special sections of our tax code that every major bank and corporation follows on a corporate level, that we can follow in our own corporations and on a personal level. It provides tax-free retirement income if it's designed properly, which is why, again, of all the different insurance carriers out there, it's important to work with someone who practices what they preach, has experience, has gone before you, and has stress tested all of these carriers for the most optimal design with the least amount of savings needed. Provide tax-free death benefits to heirs. This helps assure a greater standard of living to be accomplished, not just for ourselves, but for our family, and for some reason we checked out or got hit by the infamous bus earlier than expected. And it's indexed typically to the gold standard of indices out there, referred to as the S&P 500, by being linked to but never in the actual market. So when the market took a nosedive in March of 2009, our clients in this design didn't lose a penny. And there's ways you can do that called indexing, not investing. Now here's the key. Where everybody else had to start making up for their losses in my example of the big market crash of 2009, our clients started their new gains. And that concept's called lock-in and reset. And that is the secret sauce to this whole strategy, other than the fact of some of the other benefits I'll go into in a moment. The growth is guaranteed to be no less than zero, meaning you have an underlying floor of protection. Now, suspend your disbelief, because there's a lot of different types of cash value insurance, and there's a lot of different designs of those cash value insurance types. It's getting it right with people that know and have found the best of those designs and the most unique strategies to relate those designs into the different intricacies that are out there and available that many aren't aware of. An example of the S&P in the the Executive Retirement Protection Plan, ERPP, versus the actual S&P. The indexing is the green line. Lock in, reset. Market loses, you stay. Market goes up, you start a new gain. Once you have a new gain, it becomes your new principal, not to ever give those gains back, unlike the market that's up, down, and all around. Filling up the tank. Now, this is a 20-year average rate. I'm using a 55-year-old male non-smoker. And the minimum, and that's the difference here. This isn't traditional insurance, like death insurance, which is term insurance. What's the most I can get for the least cost? This is what's the most I can shelter and protect for the least amount of death benefit the IRS requires. So in this case, when we look at the $50,000 a year produces a cash value of just under $1 million in 15 years. That's only about a 3% cash-on-cash net rate of return. $100,000 a year produced a cash value of $2.3 million in 15 years. Its net return is just about 6%, about double. But the rate of return on the additional $50,000, so this tax-free match that I've been expressing and wanting to teach you more about, what's its rate of return? Well, now it's up to 8.38, about 8 3/8%. So here, how does this leveraging work? Well, if you've got key executives you're looking to recruit, retain, you can create an executive bonus structure. If you're a business owner, this is money you can just put away yourself, but the green represents what a unique trust in funding these designs is matching dollar for dollar or more in the first 5 years. And again, there's a reason for the timing of these deposits and premiums going in because of meeting IRS guidelines, but also additional premiums being provided on our behalf, not through us, in years 6 through 10. So leveraging allows more cash into the policy, so from a time value money, there's a longer period resulting in a higher benefit. And this is key, and this will vary based on the age. The younger you are, the less contribution you have to make. This is then where not only is there a match in the green, tax-free 50%, 100% match, but then there's another years 6 through 10 match being provided for our executives or ourselves. Now, here's a sample cost comparison, and you'll see in this 50-year-old example I'm now using, the employer premiums in the third column from the left, plus the trust finance premiums give you then the total premiums. So there's about $620,000 going into this design, of which only $219 is responsible from our end of contributions. And that's what I've highlighted here under the employer premium category. So once we've funded 5 years, we're done. And many of these savings, to redirect these savings to find these premiums, are either changing the direction of non-matched, especially if we're matching our own 401ks. See, this is almost a Roth 401 on steroids, as a CPA called it recently. And then the ability, if you have key man or buy-sell coverage with other principals or business owners, there's just a lot of ways to redirect the savings so that it's not new money you're having to save, but just redirecting where you're putting other monies presently. The finance trust premiums, this is where a proprietary trust is established, and they fund pretty much a dollar for dollar match the first 5 years, and then 100% of those matches years 6 through 10. So as a result of that, the cumulative loan with interest from the trust finance premiums are what are reflected on the right side. And in year 15, which is why there's a minimum 15-year time horizon to make this work in this proprietary design, we're using the death benefit to pay off the borrowed premiums. And watch how this all comes together. The total death benefit after that year 15, where the premiums that are borrowed are paid off from the death benefit, you'll see that the net death benefit being $1.8 million drops to $1.2 million because the $600,000 approximately borrowed has now been paid off tax-free from a tax-free death benefit. Now, if you look at the net cash surrender value, you also see that even after that 15 years, there's still over $630,000 of liquid cash. And this is key, especially if you're going to expand your business. Maybe you've got other adult children now in the business that are acquiring your shares. There's some unique succession planning and stock sale strategies to be very tax advantageous, which we just don't have time in this educational format and time restriction to go into. But this is what we can talk to you about in your one-on-one no-cost discovery consultation for those that are interested, that I'll tell you more about in a moment. Now, if you look at it, our contributions were $219, and the net cash surrender value by about the 6th year is the same. This is a front-loaded contract, meaning designed properly, we can get the internal cost down less than an average Morningstar brokerage account, but the IRS is who restricts how fast we can fund it in order to have all the tax advantages and protection devices. And of course, as I illustrated, at the end of the 15th year, the trust is then directed to pay off the trust finance premiums, which are paid tax-free as a loan provision against the death benefit. What's the internal rate of return? Well, it's 9%. A 9% net cash on cash return without even using all of our own savings, right? Now let's think about it as business owners. If we wanted to put in $600,000 in this example, we'd have to make $1 million. It would take us years to just dollar cost average save $600,000 after we had to make $1 million to net $600,000. But if we only are responsible for 25% of the deposit premiums going in, and we can use tax-free contributions in the form of the equivalent of a 75% tax-free match, that's safe positive leverage. The projected tax-free income for 20 years after the 15th year is about $55,000 net of tax. There's no tax on that distribution, and over that 20 years provides over about $1.1 million of tax-free income, assuming someone only lives to a normal life expectancy into their mid-80s, where many people, likely many of you listening well below the ages of 55 or 65 today, will likely live to be a centenarian, hitting that infamous 100-plus age mark. The importance to this is, even after using about $1.1 million of income, still at around the age of 84, there's still liquidity of almost $320,000 if at that point you wanted to close out the account, which we wouldn't recommend because you could trigger a very unnecessary tax. But you could borrow more than 55 being the point as an income stream, supplemental income stream, and still leave some form of death benefits so that the account was never taxed. Let's compare that to taxable investments. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly at a net 7%. How long will your retirement savings last comparatively? So it would take us about $43,000 for 5 years to net an income of $55,000 a year to start at the 15th year forward. Assuming capital gains rates for some of us listening are 15%, that money will be gone in 12 years and 4 months, and that's assuming that the market doesn't lose and tax rates don't rise. Let's now compare that if capital gains rates go to what many, in fact, one presidential candidate wants that to go to about 42%, but let's say is at 30%, that money's gone in under about right about 8.5 years, 8 years, 7 months, and of course that means the market never lost and tax rates never got any higher than 30%. Now let's look at the numbers in the ERP plan, right? The Executive Retirement Protection Plan versus that taxable investment, and let's just kind of show them head to head. 5-year contributions are the same. Permanent insurance in force, very different than a 401k or investing money in a brokerage account. Permanent insurance in 15 years, even after having paid off the loan to the trust premiums borrowed. On top of the cash value, still outperforming. On top of the amount net tax-free income, right? $55,000. The other two aren't going to make it, especially if you look at the cash value in year 24. The taxable account at 30% is gone by the 9th year. And then if we look at that in 13 years, the taxable account at 15% is gone. And of course, everyone would like to secure the following: supplemental tax-free income, permanent insurance if we unfortunately checked out early. But what about chronic, critical, terminal coverages? Where is that money coming from? Likely through after-tax dollars that we've had to save a gross amount to net the premiums for the net amount. But what if you could finance that, right? You'd finance a home, you'd finance a car likely. Why not finance the benefits? And what can be more costly than an unexpected death? Well, surviving an illness, especially for those of you that had family or friends that have survived long-term care or a major health setback. It's very expensive. So inclusive to this design, almost like a Swiss Army knife, as many describe it, is accelerated benefit riders, so that without a fee, you don't pay anything unless you have to trigger the design for either critical, chronic, or terminal coverages, right? Investors worry about long-term care more than they do retirement planning. It was a UBS study a few years back. And here's the reason. Organ transplant, heart attack, renal failure, you could borrow up to $1 million tax-free and not liquidate your business or other assets to protect yourself. Under the chronic side on the far right, if you can't perform at least 2 of the 6 daily living activities, and I had my own mother unfortunately go through this experience beating breast cancer some years ago, that at the time was running almost $8,000 a month. Now you can accelerate up to 2% of the death benefit, or up to $20,000 per month, or $1 million lifetime value, to not have to spend down your other assets to get through that health setback. And of course, terminally, if you're projected to pass away unfortunately in 24 months or less, you could take a one-time up to $1 million tax-free distribution and live out your life to the fullest. Now, Accelerated benefits, they're not restricted, unlike more traditional benefits. Medical expenses, you can pay family members to help take care of you, travel, renovate your home for your physical handicap setbacks to get through that illness, maybe take on and cover some of the unexpected business expenses because of the loss of revenue with you being outside the operation. And this is key. So let's look at those numbers because we remember this slide, but let's add these other benefits. Up to $20,000 a month for chronic, the $20,000 a month for chronic, up to $1 million for critical, and up to $1 million for terminal, where any other type of alternative savings vehicle is not going to have those benefits. And here's how you can secure in 5 easy payments, right? Kind of that infamous, finance in 5 easy payments, but it's true. Supplemental tax-free income, permanent insurance coverage that many business owners need and executives need in the first place, instead of the bare minimum. This provides a great coverage that you hope to never need, but it comes along for the ride if you do. Chronic coverages, critical coverages, not just illness, but now also injury, as well as terminal illnesses are covered. And this is why it's important, because this is how you can use it. It can be used as just a personal coverage, because it's going to be tough for many of you listening that earn a 6-figure plus income. It's hard for us to go out and think that our families can go recreate that income. It would take a lot of time. Key man coverage, it could be used in a deferred compensation structure for recruiting and retaining, possibly stock redemption, partner buyouts and or protection, and also corporate buy-sell funding, be it at death or should an illness occur, to protect the other partners and the remaining partner that stays on to run the operation. So here's what's important. Where do you find the funds? Well, they can be structured through corporate bonuses. If you have other cash value insurance, it can be exchanged under 1035 section of the tax code, tax-free. Existing assets, be it mutual funds, annuities, other taxable investments. Delaying current contributions or using contributions you're not getting any type of a match benefit on, especially if you're paying your own match, being the owners. And here's how this breaks down, that the younger you get started, the lesser investment of savings is required, right? So we show a 35-year-old being about 23, annual contributions for 5 years. And again, once you fund for 5 years, you can't put any more in. You're not allowed, but the trust can. It's about 37 for a 45-year-old, about 43 for a 50-year-old, about 52 for a 55-year-old. I really don't like designing these for somebody who's over the age of 55 unless it's more of a death benefit protection plan only. How is the plan structured? It's actually very simple. The policy is the collateral of the transaction. And what we call a master trust bundles these multiple policies, and there's only so much room per month for these trusts to close out. But individual policies are segregated into individual sub-trusts, which also all the proper trust planning is actually included in this design. You don't have to go out and hire an attorney or explain all this and have a legal bill run up on you. We already know the people that know what they know. So benefits can be commingled, especially as you can imagine certain people retiring at different time frames inside of these sub-trusts, inclusive of the master trust. Here's how this looks. Executive pays contributions, and let's say that these 4 contracts go into their sub-trusts that are now inclusive in the master trust, in the blue. And then the insurer's risk, being the insurance company and the lender, has the collateral, and there's not a personal guarantee. It's the collateral of the cash value of the premiums. So you're not going to be asked to cover it personally. It's covered with the policy premiums. And benefits are paid to participants and or their beneficiaries as these individual sub-trusts filter out of the main master trust. And it really is that simple. And the Finance Executive Retirement Protection Plan is the answer, because it pools executives and owners together to purchase bonus plans at a significantly reduced cost, because the more that goes into these master trusts, the lesser the borrowing cost is because of the greater amount of loan being made overall to the master trust. So this, from an economy of scale, is a cost-saving structure. There's not ERISA issues, so you don't have any extra government reporting. You can be discriminatory, pick and choose who you want included and not. So there's no discrimination issues. And you can even, under certain Section 162 bonus programs, possibly, and again, not giving tax advice, but we're happy to refer you to a tax counsel that can give you how that individually relates to you, potential corporate deduction for the payments. But that's not the benefit. The benefit is the tax-free contributions with the 75% tax-free match, with everything tax-free from that point forward. In essence, you now have the ability to leverage additional benefits because there's no financial underwriting for the lending, although you do have to have a minimum income of $100,000 or more. There's no personal lending requirements because it's also not a personal guarantee. There's no cumbersome lending application. It's all done through the insurance approval, through making sure that we're conforming to the IRS guidelines so that this is technically not deemed a disguised pension plan. And there's no need for outside collateral, as I said, because the collateral are the premiums being provided into the special design insurance contract. So here's the advantage. It already has professional plan administration inclusive, not only of the sub-trusts into the master trust being structured up front, but also the ongoing plan administration. There's segregated accounting for each policy that relates to each sub-account. Substantial savings versus a 162 bonus plan and other strategies, especially with that 75% tax-free match that makes this the only program that's patent protected of its kind. And there's no lending requirements for the company or the executive. It's not going to put the company on the hook for a key executive or the executive putting their employer on the hook. And it eliminates the potential for needing the purchasing of other needed benefits. So that's where a lot of the cost savings comes in, by just redirecting having a premium going out for this, that, and the other, or here, there, and everywhere, to all be in one simple, one-positioned account. So you'd finance your home or your car, as I said earlier, but why not finance your benefits? And this is the key to this being one of the most unique programs of its kind, with a limited offering on a monthly basis. And so here's the reality. The Executive Retirement Protection Plan, it's more earning power. It provides more benefits, not the minimum, but the greatest benefits, more safety and more income with permanent protection and peace of mind. So here are the next steps. There's always a closeout date, and we offer a free analysis to determine your individual plan potential. And if you want to get started the quickest way possible, there's two ways to do that. One, email help@executiveretirementprotection.com. That's help@executiveretirementprotection.com. Give us the best time, the best day, especially the best time as it relates to your time zone. We base everything off of Eastern time with our corporate headquarters in Florida. So be sure to let us know what is the best Eastern time to reach you and day, typically between the hours of 10 a.m. and about 7 p.m. Or there's a survey that will pop up that you can just simply complete, and then you can choose your preferred callback time, but please be sincere of when that time is. You know, all of those of you listening, being busy executives and busy business owners or both, that time is our most precious commodity. And we are an integrous organization, and when someone says reach us on a Wednesday at 3 o'clock, we reach you at Wednesday at 3 o'clock. So please be true to that and have integrity in what your request is. Question and answers, and we'll finish up. So here's some of the questions that have come in. What has been the performance of this plan? That's a great question. Now, I would say the average has been 7.5%, which for many of us, we'd have to go gross about an 11% return, pay the tax. But mind you, when you're not taking on downside and you get to start your new upside where everyone else has to start making up for their downside, it doesn't take more than about 7% to outperform the market, especially the gold standard being the S&P. It's just a different way to play the S&P in a more protected format. How does somebody qualify? Well, here's the great news. You don't have to have walk-on-water stellar health, because if your health is questionable, your minimum death benefit is less, and if your health is superior, your minimum death benefit is higher. It doesn't necessarily mean it's more expensive for better health or at-risk health. It just means it's designed differently. So that's what makes it very different from grandma and grandpa's yesterday life insurance. Do you have to qualify? Yeah, you still have to be insurable, but you don't have to be running marathons on a weekly basis. But great question. And maybe it's a spouse in your family that may have the six-figure, 100,000 or more net income if it's not you. We've designed them that way as well. Can you give examples of being used with larger groups? Yeah, we have pediatric groups. We have business owners that there's just two principals. And then we work with professionals that they're using this as a recruiting and retaining tool. So it could be used across the board. And I think really that individual discovery interview consultation will really, and again, there's not a cost or an obligation to that, but I think has really proven its salt, because as we know, the differences of all of us, even in the form of DNA, the way we earn, the way we run our businesses are going to be very different as well. So leverage our experience under your unique business profile and let us give you those answers specific to you. Oh, this is interesting. I've tried something like this before and it didn't work. I'm worried that will happen again. You know, unfortunately, there's a lot of different types. I'm confident to tell you there's no way you've tried this one, because it's a patented protected program and the only one of its kind. And I would say the difference is maximum funding, even with getting tax-free contributions, not what a lot of people have experienced with minimum funding. The key is in the structure, and we'd be happy to have more of that conversation with you and learn more about your bad experience so you can use what you've learned from that to make this a good experience. What is the best way to get started, because I already tried to reach your office? Well, I'm not sure how you've tried to do that, but as I said before, there's a survey that's going to come up, and we can serve people on a first-come, first-served basis. So it gives you the best time and day to be reached based on Eastern time zone. Please don't forget that. And please know, we make a couple attempts to reach out to you with the best phone number and then the best email. And then we put the onus on you, because as you can imagine, with the uncertainty of this economy, you know, the crazy threats of terrorist attacks to the uncertainty of, you know, a high percentage of S&P companies didn't meet their quarterly earnings and have been non-profitable now through this last quarter, especially compared to last year. There's a lot of uncertainty where the market's going to go, so people are looking to get in before the market gets up, as well as before tax rates go up. So just complete that survey or go to the email that I gave you that will help you get in touch with us right away. And I'd like to thank you, and especially for your time and your attention as it relates to, and I went through that fast, but I'm also trying to be respectful of just how busy we executives and business owners are. And in light of that, I'm just going to go back here and give you that website, or excuse me, the email again, help@executive-retirementprotection.com. That, or just completing the survey, will help you get engaged and learn more through our discovery interview process, so that you can learn how to turn decades into days and have protections and lesser costs and a better retirement plan in a shorter period of time by learning this patent-protected, safe savings solution. Here's to you finding your hidden wealth.